Welcome to the Woo Money Show with me, Gaurika Chaudhary. Our expert today is PV Subramaniam. He is a financial blogger and author. He blogs at subramoney.com and he has had his finger on the pulse of investors for about the last 3 decades. So clearly, he has been a witness to the changes in attitudes towards money. PV, thank you for being with us on the show.
My pleasure.
What are the few things that you have noticed? Because there has been a huge change in how we approach money, where we spend it, how do we treat it. What stays in your mind?
I see the younger girls, especially the women that you're talking about, the millennials and all, they're far more clear that they will manage their own money.
Okay.
They are not dependent on their husbands and brothers and fathers and that category to look after their money. So they take their own decisions, right or wrong, they take their own decisions.
Right.
Some of the girls who allow their husbands to manage the money do a review on an annual basis, saying, you have put it here, why have you put it here? They ask those questions. I think asking those questions means there's not going to be any great friction later on saying, why have you done this? Because it's a joint decision, it's joint money.
Right.
So they know why they have insurance, why they have this. This is true for a small portion of the people, but there are others who have funded their own education. Even daughters of rich fathers who say, I will not take money from my father, I'll pay for my own education. So we see this happening and this is a good sign.
Right.
But not everyone is like that. There are younger ones who will just come blow the money. They have no focus as to why they are spending. So they may not even be, happy with what they are spending after a month, saying, oh God, what have I bought? But yeah, you see all types.
Exactly. So, the question was that out of the population that is choosing to now take up the reins and take their own money decisions, how much of that population is informed money-wise, and is there a difference in approach to spending versus saving? Which one is more?
Again, for older people like me, it is easy to say these millennials, but they're not one category, right? Till they're 23, 24, obviously they're trying to buy that 8,000 rupee handbag which their father never allowed them to buy and stuff like that. But by the time they're 26, 27, they know, that they've had their fill. So first 1 or 2 years, they do all this splurging and then they're happy to spend a lot on experiences. So you will find these kids, they're not earning too much money, but they'll go for a 5-day vacation to Europe.
Right.
And I find older people struggling and wondering and taking a 3-day trip to Goa. They won't go to, but these kids do that. So they are willing to spend more on experiences than on stuff. If their fathers or somebody gives them 50,000 bucks, it will not translate to jewelry. It will translate to an iPhone. So they are spending like the boys are spending. They're spending on gadgets and things like that, and not so much on so-called girly stuff like jewelry.
Okay.
I don't really see them spend money on gold at all. Even if it's jewelry, it's going to be some very cheap stuff, 200, 300 rupee things, not those expensive stuff. Wondering if I lose it, what will happen.
PV, you explained to me, how women of the older generation need to be financially enabled. They need to be taken through, a process of familiarization with online
Simple
payments, so on
processes,
and
yeah.
so forth. And that the younger generation is taking more money matters in their own hands. However, when you're taking money matters in your own hands, it could be because you're independent and well informed. It could also be an act of rebellion, saying that I want to manage my own destiny. Which of the two is more common, and how do you ensure that there is less room for error, because sometimes money errors in the area of money can cost you dearly. So how do you pave your way through, especially working women who do not have too much time and do not necessarily want to depend on too many advisors? You don't know if temperaments match, if agendas match, so on and so forth.
I don't know, it's difficult. It's not that they can pretend that they know everything. They don't, and sometimes they have to ask somebody. Asking their fathers may not be a good idea because their fathers may not know about the newer products which are available. So, either they sit and learn themselves or they sit with their spouses and learn. Because boys are also willing to say, okay, you take responsibility for your money, I take responsibility for my money, we'll keep a joint account. We see all these things happening.
Right.
So, kids are getting smarter with money. I wish more kids were getting smarter, because when you ask them to read books, many of them read a lot of books and they come back and saying what kind of insurance we need and things like that. It is happening. It is not that it is not happening. I wish more of it was happening. And they are spending more on things like experiences. So they
Right.
would want to go to Switzerland, they would want to go to all those kind of fancy places, spending a lot of money. They may not be creating assets. They may not be taking adequate insurance. They
So
may not be having pension.
they are more savvy at spending. You wish they were more savvy at saving as well.
Yeah, because there is one risk which they are unable to understand, and they could live very long. They could live till 100, 105. So if they're going to live that long and they're going to retire at 50,
Right.
you have to.
So you
stretch
don't
your
want
money for
longevity to
55
become
years.
a curse.
Yeah, longevity is a curse because you take a lot of decisions later on in life and you may be short of money.
Right.
So you need to do all that. So I don't know how it will come out. I mean, every generation looks at the next generation saying, "Oh my God, what is going to happen to them?" But they end up better than us. So I don't see it as a worry. But yes, I wish they took more interest in knowing what is going to happen 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I've seen some older women suffering like anything because suddenly they've been ditched when they're 45. They've not, it's not that they've not earned money. They've earned money, but because they wanted to look after the kids, they've gone slow on their own careers. Their
Okay.
husbands have been traveling, they've, all that, and suddenly at 45 or 50, the guy just wants to give up on her. Maybe gives her a house, maybe gives her some money, and suddenly she's left in the lurch. The kids have flown, and she's alone.
Right.
I don't think the younger generation wants to be trapped into that. So they are more clear about what they want to do. I wish the older generation had anticipated because the guy who wants to ditch her is well prepared. He's not, giving up on her on one particular day. From the last 6 months, he would have done it. He would have made sure that she's no longer a joint holder and things like that. Women are completely unprepared for being ditched.
So financially, they could be left without a leg to stand on.
Yeah, they could be. Of course, if they go to court, they will get some money. It's still a women-oriented law which says.
But that's way into the future. It goes through a long passage of agony.
Absolutely. It could take 7 years, 8 years to get the alimony. The divorce in this country goes on for 12, 13 years, the divorce process. So it's a very long, agonizing thing. Women should at least know what their husbands are doing. Where have you invested? Is it either or survivor? In case of an emergency, will I be able to withdraw the money? If you are paralyzed, you are lying in coma, will I be able to access that? Do I have your credit card passwords? Do I have all that? It's very important because even if the guy has got a heart attack and you have the credit card and you don't know the password, you can't use it in the hospital.
Right.
So where is the emergency fund kept? How are we going to operate it? In fact, I encourage a lot of men to ask the women to do all the utility payments. Go to the bank account. You have to do it online, right? Whether it's an electricity bill or a telephone bill, go online and make the payment so that you know how that has to be made.
Thank you so much, PV, for joining us and explaining to us your view of how women are managing their money more often than not on their own. However, they need to become savvier about where they're investing, what they're investing for, and what they should not be spending on. Thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Woo Money.